This is Gaza, a place that had lived through 75 years of displacement, for those of you who started following the news only recently. 17 years of blockade, and now nearly 2 years of a war so relentless it had turned the entire strip into a desert of concrete and dust. On August 8, 2025, Israel's Security Cabinet approved a sweeping military plan to seize control of Gaza City. They say it's temporary. They say they will take control, but that will be later handed to some undefined Arab administration. But the language on paper doesn't change the reality on the ground. When tanks roll in, we call it one thing, and one thing only: an occupation. The only person on the planet who defines this otherwise is the planet's most despicable war criminal of the hour. The official plans, they say, have 5 goals: disarm Hamas, demilitarize Gaza, establish Israeli military control, set up a civil administration excluding both Hamas and the PA, I don't know who's left when you do that, and free the remaining hostages. And on paper, it does sound like a list, but in real life, it is a sentence for 2 million people. For them, this means turning the strip officially to what it kind of already had become in the last few months: one big camp for testing weapons and military strategies on a civil population while starving it. Even inside Israel right now, there are voices of warning. The military's own chief of staff, Eyal Zamir, says that a full occupation risks high IDF casualties. Of course, they don't care about the civilians, and could trap hostages into a crossfire and might drag the country into an endless quagmire. But those warnings, like so many before, are drowned out by the drums of war and the far-right government thirst for civilian blood. And while the military itself recognizes that the humanitarian reality is beyond crisis, its total collapse, virtually the entire population of Gaza right now, 2.1 million, I want you to grasp that number, are facing food insecurity at a crisis level or worse. 12% are already in famine condition, and 44% are in an emergency status. These are not statistics, by the way, that you just put on a spreadsheet. These are families rationalizing one piece of bread for an entire day. These are children literally eating grass and sand. Among the children under 5, malnutrition had quadrupled in the last 2 months. Not doubled, quadrupled. Why? Because Israel's blockade had choked off food, water, fuel, and aid between March all the way till now. No humanitarian convoys are entering. Food prices have gone up by more than 1,000%. I need you to try and perceive that. Anything worth $100 is now worth at least 1,000. Bakeries are shut. Refugee kitchens are nothing but empty shelves. By mid-July, starvation had killed at least 122 people in just few days. Many of them are vulnerable children. The United Nations, the World Food Programme, and UNICEF, all of them are warning that famine isn't looming, it's already here and at its worst, and it's man-made. Israel, of course, says that it will evacuate civilians from the north before the offensive and this occupation begin, because they care, right? But Gaza is already one of the most densely populated places on earth. Where do you evacuate when every inch of the land is bombed or blocked? And the international reactions in all this? Well, it's more kind of a sad, laughable reality. The United Nations calls this plan deeply alarming. Thank you. The UK Prime Minister calls it worrying and wrong and demands immediate ceasefire and full humanitarian access and return to negotiations for a two-state solution. Thank you as well. Australia says it's a violation of international law. Thank you. and a very sharp sense of noticing things like this. I mean, thank you to the entire international community for these statements and positions and calls. You are, however, some 60,000 deaths late, with many more to come. So, can we just agree that all these statements do absolutely nothing but making the international community drown just a little further every time in its hypocrisy/helplessness? On the ground in Gaza, people say that there is nothing left to occupy. That's how late you are. Entire districts have been erased. And in the West Bank, by the way, which we shouldn't speak less about, settler violence has surged, destroying Palestinian life everywhere. This occupation plan, and let's make sure we don't call it anything else, is a disaster in motion. It will force even more families from their homes. It will deepen famine and disease, and it will make the safe return of the hostages less likely, not more. It will entrench a system of control that violates every principle of international law meant to protect innocent civilians. Throughout history, occupation has never brought security. It has never brought justice. It has only brought more resistance, more bitterness, and more blood on all sides. And to grasp the scope of this isn't just a human catastrophe. It is also an environmental one. 75% of Gaza's farmlands have been destroyed intentionally. 2/3 of its wells are damaged. Livestock have been wiped out. This is not just killing the people. It is killing the very land that could keep them alive. What Gaza needs today is not another military flag planted on its ruins. It needs freedom. The freedom to rebuild, to farm its lands, to drink clean water, and to send children to school without fear of seeing them come back in morgues. It is in simple ways called human dignity. And I don't get why in 2025 it is such a hard goal to achieve. So what now? If you live in a democracy, you have a voice. Use it. Pressure your government to demand immediate ceasefire. You can see that in spite of world leaders looking the other way, people in Western cities are doing just that. Insist that humanitarian aid would be allowed to flow into Gaza without any sort of obstructions or conditions. Support organizations that defend Palestinian rights and do document these abuses. I mean, that is what I'm trying to do right here. And obviously, fight for justice, because this war is not inevitable, and starvation is not inevitable. Occupation is not inevitable. What is inevitable is this: every day the world stays silent, more people die. And one day, that question won't be, why didn't we do anything? The question will be, why did we let it happen again?